Alright, folks. Today it is that even though I find myself with a hell of a huge business processing aptitude and years of proven experience in a business processing environment, an outsourced business processing environment, I find myself applied, right, to one Pet Supplies Plus, if you could believe it, for a cashier positioning. That is far under my capability, but that's all good. I find myself heavily overqualified for this position that I'm applying myself for today. And the reason that would be is because I find that I have been subverted to a terrible degree in every which methodology I could consider of my privacy. I find that there has been a hot mic, a camera, I guess kind of like stolen from me in my phone, right? So somebody has a hot mic in my phone. Somebody has a hot camera in my phone as well, in each every single one of them, as I have eventually come to learn, right? And through the utilization of these hot mics, and potentially we'll just call them bugged, right? Through the utilization of this, that I have actually been able to kind of prove to myself to a certain reasonable degree over the course of around a year now. I have been referenced online 24/7. It just, that part's fine. Fact of the matter is, I have family members here who took advantage of this and started around March of 2024 purposefully hurting me and torturing my reality. And this came in the form of our family friends, the Skirblehorns, over here in West New York. It was that I had secured for myself work at a place called Maddie's Motorsports, and that's in Danville, New York. And, it was kind of easy to get the job, whatever. It was great. I was in a great position. I had my boyfriend. He was affording my ability to survive, essentially. And was it that I myself found that in a little bit of time, that the time that I was spending at Maddie's, right, people were acting incredibly sheepishly, bizarrely towards me. Was it in fact that I was actually shadowed? Somebody had tried to threaten me while it was that I was walking in the place, no less. Let alone that when it was right after I should look directly at a camera that they had in their sales floor. It was an incredibly bizarre event, amongst a great bulk of them. But the greatest, most bizarre events during my time working at Maddie's Motorsports in 2024, early last year, was that I was vehicularly assaulted a bunch. I was vehicularly assaulted, and it seemed to be based upon what I was saying in real time. Even though I wasn't recording, I didn't have a stream session going on my phone. No, they would assault me based off of what I was saying. So at that point, I was then eventually made aware over my next few days working at Maddie's Motorsports that these individuals were aware of the hot mic instance and were trying to subvert my reality and mind with it all the same. Just same people are trying to say stop talking when it is that they send vehicles over at me. And so that was one lick of it, and I got that. And then it was that my boyfriend, Drew, who I love him, my boyfriend Drew essentially came home to me the same week and a half into my working there on meth and GHB, wailing at the top of their lungs upstairs, and my father just kind of acting downstairs, just indifferent to it. I had to go up there and try and do what I could while I was being vehicularly assaulted and going to a place that was like an hour away to get work that was very important for me and my ability to maintain myself. And then I came home, and then it was that I had the Skirmahorns available here for me, where it was that they were straight up referring to a meme that was being pushed to me on Reddit through my specified home feed that seemed to be already artificially messed with to push specifically me, specifically encoded subversive ideas through suggestion. One of these pictures was the depiction of needles essentially raining down from the sky. There was a baby in a cradle. There was a baby in a cradle, and then there was a fully grown man to the left, as if immolating themselves on their knees with arms outstretched on a cross. Like, take me instead, but the needles aren't coming from that direction. Nobody's going after him. They're just going after the perceived baby, and that is in fact, of course, like many people might refer to their loved ones with, but that was after everything I had experienced through this already subversive version of a home screen on the Reddit app. I myself was able to infer this was a threat to me. And so the very next day, after I'm going through all of that at Maddie's already, is that I get home from work, and then it is that the skirmahorns are over, and they just all of a sudden pull me into a conversation about my experience at Maddie's Motorsports, how awesome it is that I got the job, bop, 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 bop. And then it is that they start bringing up dead baby jokes at the table, and after I was already not really paying attention to them because I have autism and ADHD. So ultimately, I find myself, right, immediately aware of what's being put down, that these people are referencing this already subversive thing that I have now outspoken. When I saw that image, I said that that's a threat. That's a threat. So they hear this through the hot mic, and then they subverse me. They're subversive about it at me at my own dinner table. And then get this is all set up with potentially Drew being involved in the equation. He's waiting for a specific period for me to get completely understandably riled up over all of this. And then there was a triggering point with my girlfriend Addie. I wanted to get her family over here around August of 2024. So yeah, I was still with Drew that whole time. I was subverted by my family, subverted by randos on the road. I was subverted by my extended family. All up, and then Drew decidedly did meth and GHB while I finally got work. And so, yeah, I kind of find that at the end of all that, I'm kind of like, yeah, well, it's amazing I was still at Drew at all. I have no fucking idea how any of this would ever have worked in the first place. But yeah, and seriously, guys, grab some popcorn, kick up some, this is fucking funny to me. But it's not. Because I was tortured. This was in my mouth for like a year, almost, being broken in my mouth and abscessing while these people were doing this to subvert me away from feeling enabled to get work. My own family members, my extended family members, potentially my own boyfriend. But yeah, I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't do anything about it because of how overwhelmed I was made by everybody's terrible actions. But yeah, it was in August where now my mom had specifically set something up to make me feel horrible too, which was I wanted to bring Addie and her family over to experience our pool like we had been talking about for months, and that I had brought my mom into regards to, and asked, is that okay? And we bring that in advance for months, and she suddenly puts her foot down, this triggering the torture that I had already experienced during my time at Maddie's, and then that kind of that little piece of consistent thing where you're like, how the fuck would they have enabled that? They would have had to have been conspiring to do something so horrible. So yeah, that was what my mom did to trigger then my boyfriend, Drew, specifically to leave me on purpose then, while I'm very understandably going through the shit on this. And at that point, is it that, right, he just decides to leave with everything that's known. Everything. And then is it that I'm just left with, amongst all of that, with a deprecating bank account, with everything? I've been left with specifically no money in my account. My bank account falls negative $12, negative $70. I'm telling my parents about how bad of an issue this is, how it feels like it's been done on purpose. And my bank account falls more and more negative, and so I find myself pushed into that point. I have to go and tap into my own 401k that I had to go and fucking torture myself over to secure at Intel Contact Center Solutions back in Indianapolis, Indiana, where I was subverted there too. And people pushed me out. But that's not what this story is about. This is more recent. So I had to take like 66-70% of that out. And was it then I was expecting, right? Maybe people would come back around? I don't know. But no, they honestly never did. They kind of just sort of plateaued against a point to make sure that my money would drain again. And I myself am left kind of appalled and in consideration these people just can't go to heaven. But against all of that, right, I find myself still in the situation today where it is that I have expanded and talked about this and have expressed to my own parents at least 5 times, more times I can count on a single hand at least, about why this is so unacceptable. And was it in the past, after Drew had left me, that my own mother had tried to weaponize a recording of her phone on me while I was telling her about what made me feel so horrible about this at the table? Has it been since my parents have called the police on me in my home twice? I have been doing everything I can to secure as much information as I possibly can, to take as much of my own testimonial, God fucking sworn. I swear on God above the Constitution on this. I swear to God. And so I have a whole bunch of testimonial of me being horribly, horribly subverted and angsty and angry and screaming and all sorts of shit. And it's completely understandable, and that's where it is that I can showcase a great bulk of the information as it was being distributed to my family members, my loved ones, my own brother, so many people.
Stop face tracking.
Hello, Aurora. And of course, Aurora. That's just a camera, don't worry. I just like to play along. So, yeah, I myself kind of find myself, right, I'm still in a situation where these individuals come into my home without handshaking what the intent or motivation behind purposefully torturing and subverting me was. They themselves, I guess, just find themselves just in the lowest form of consideration I can hold, but I generally have spent an awful lot of my time trying to reconsider them, but I think I am about at my wit's end with that, and I am putting this up now on Facebook because I don't know where the fuck else I could possibly put something like this to leverage the fact, thank you, Aurora, to leverage the fact that this has happened to me, has been continually happening to me, and needs to stop, while it is that I then get handshaked by the people who all had a hand in doing this together to me. Ensure that I am handshaked with the reality of the situation, of what it was that they were doing, the full severity of the situation as to why it was they were doing it to me, why they have still been doing it to me, and then I need to understand what it is that we were doing to make an apology to me, because this has been one of the most disgusting, despicable circumstances I have ever encountered in my life, and yes, I would be incredibly retributive and angry and vengeful at you, and potentially I have been in the past, but is it now that I am absolutely in expectation of compensation for this? Thank you very much. I love you all. Good night.